Greetings to believers all over the world. We are doing another episode of the Advocacy half hour, which we launched on the 1st of April, which is scheduled to end on the 1st of May. The basis and the history behind the institution or the commencement of such a project is the persecution of the church, the persecution of myself, Apostle T.F. Chuenga, by the state, the government of Zimbabwe. And I want you to know today that our society, being broken as it is, we are coming into, or we have gone into, a very, very inconvenient society where after somebody deprives you of what you are entitled to, what rightfully belongs to you, they are also asking you to be quiet about it. We have got the state sponsoring half pay, half wage among our youths, because our youths are generally susceptible to abuse because of the joblessness and the economic challenges our nation is facing for a long time now. They are given few handfuls of dollars to go on social media, to criticize, to fight, to oppose, to tarnish, to do a smear campaign on anyone who dares open their mouth and speak. When you look at what my brother Hopo Chungono posts, speaking, asking the people of Zimbabwe, especially the youths whose future is on the line, that they should desist on pursuing things that just kill time and babysit them into ignoring matters that affect their future, their life. Let us talk about the state of our nation, the corruption, the abuse of national resources, the scandals in government offices, and also the human rights issues, where we are seeing people being murdered being harassed, arbitrary arrests, intimidation, threatenings, sexual abuses, tortures, abductions. You find those people who are nicknamed in our vernacular language as Varakash. They will start to say, you want to talk too much, you are going to die. Stop talking about it. Why are you anti-government? Why are you anti-progress? Why are you always finding something wrong? The president is doing his best. So we have a situation like that. After people's lives are taken in a criminal act of murder and genocide, the citizens are also required to be quiet. If you start to talk about it, you are labeled an enemy. They will start to accuse you of fabricating lies against the state. In which case, if our state if it had a clear conscience towards everything that we are saying here, if they had nothing to hide, if they believe in that innocent song which they are asking their handlers to pay our youths to sing, then they could have engaged us. Why do you say the government is terrorizing you? Why do you say the government is seeking to take your life? We don't have anyone with a mandate to kill you. That could have been a sign that our government at least believes that song which they are singing on social media, that they are not in any way to blame in everything that we are speaking about. But I want to share with you what I've shared with you some time ago. Maybe you may not have come across that video. As I speak to you right now, and I have Pastor Baloy here and Brother Nelson in the studio, we represent the Church of Jesus Christ, the true Church of Jesus Christ, Jesus Revelation Ministries. We are based in Zimbabwe. That's my home country. I have been preaching for more than 8 years now, even though the ministry started a year after I started preaching. That's why we had our 7th anniversary a few weeks ago. I have spoken out. I have openly spoken out. I have openly condemned with strong condemnation the irresponsible behavior of my government. They've killed our people. They've killed my brothers and sisters in the streets. Our soldiers gunned down our people because they were protesting against state-sponsored election fraud. This is a picture. This is a picture of our military shooting at unarmed citizens in Zimbabwe, in Harare, on the streets. So after condemning this, I was not only publicly intimidated, publicly threatened, I was also labeled an enemy of the government. And after that labeling, I was now stalked and followed. I started to realize that my phones were bugged, including my landline in my office. It was bugged. I think in one of the public statements that I made, I mentioned that. Following me, their cars were following me. And I want you to see the unregistered vehicles which they sent to follow me, to stalk me. So they followed one of our cars, and we knew that they were following us, and we installed dash cams in that car, and we put it on the roads. We wanted to capture evidence. We wanted to capture evidence of those cars following us. So that car there, that is in front of that Isuzu, is the car that they were following. And they didn't know that the car behind their car was taking up their images. And there's another image of those vehicles, this is another one. They were following me as well. And we recorded these things so that you could see. And last time I showed you that they also sent drones to my house so that they could record videos of my house. They invaded my privacy. They violated the law, which states that I have a right to personal privacy. So I want us to watch videos which are going to show you that we are not just hallucinating. The state of Zimbabwe, the government of Zimbabwe, actually put me on their target list. I am one of the very few preachers whose name has been mentioned in a Politburo meeting by a minister of Home Affairs, labeling me an anti-government preacher. Let's hear the Home Affairs minister talking about me.
There's quite a number of civil society organizations which have also enlisted onto this illegal subversive bandwagon under the control of certain diplomatic missions accredited to Harare. This narrative, which also sets an agenda for and promotes negative political activism, including coordinated fake abductions and media campaigns, has of late roped in several self-proclaimed local and international prophets. These include one US-based Nathan Hambrid of the so-called Miracle Ministries, Talent Chiwenga, a self-styled rabid anti-government Harare First Street preacher, Simon Chilo of the so-called Deeds of Christ Ministries, and a few others. Most intriguingly, there's concurrently evolved a palpable pattern whereby certain foreign missions accredited to Zimbabwe are now in the habit of misleading their capitals through purported intelligence gathered from these same dubious sources.
There's no ambiguities there. This is the Home Affairs Minister responsible for immigration, responsible for the ZRP, the police, and also responsible for the Registrar General's office. He mentioned my name. There is no other preacher who is in First Street whose name is Talent Chiwenga. It's me. Now, one should realize, Pastor, that when such a high-level government official reads a statement and mentions you and labels you an enemy of the state, anti-government preacher, and he also says we are handled by diplomatic missions that are accredited to Harare, it's not just name-calling or characterization. It's a warning. It's a warning that the government is after you. It's an informative situation where they are communicating to us that, number one, we are monitoring you, we are watching you, and that we have a project on you. Yes. This is the Minister of Home Affairs. I have been harassed several times at different ports of entry in Zimbabwe, be it the international airport or the border control system. And they confiscated my passports, harassed me. I remember in Mutare, they harassed me. They took my car to the VID scanning machine and they said, you want to check if there are weapons in your car. How can you search for weapons in a preacher's car? And of course, they didn't have any weapons. They didn't find any weapons. If they found weapons, you could not be hearing it now for the first time. So if I am harassed at different ports of entry by the immigration officials, if I am stalked by the police, it is not a wonder, because their boss, the Minister of Home Affairs, is publicly announcing their interest in my life. So we are not just saying the government is targeting us from the blues. We are showing you the evidence in the public domain that my life, Apostle Chiwenga's life, is in danger. And we are not guessing, we are not casting bones and throwing sticks. to consult psychics to find out who is after my life. We are aware that Mr. Mnangagwa's government is after my life. Now, the Vice President, Mr. Chiwenga, I met with him in October of 2018. And the presidential guards, the soldiers who protect the president and the vice president, they detained me, they interrogated me, they threatened me with disappearance. Because we happen to come from the same family. In the flesh, of course, spiritually, we don't belong to the same family. There is a different spirit in him than the spirit that is in me. After that intimidation, after that interrogation, after the threatenings, which only ended because the family said, you cannot harass a son of the family in his own house, to the soldiers. If the vice president has a problem with Apostle Chiwenga, that's a family matter, we can handle it. Let him go, don't harass him. So I was released. But even after they released me, they stalked me for 30 kilometers. On Sunday, the following day, because this harassment happened on the 20th, it was a Saturday. If my memory serves me right, 2018, Saturday, the 20th of October. The following day on Sunday, the Vice President was having a prayer session, and the ZTV people were there. And what happened, Pastor? I was detained. And after my detention on Saturday, Saturday it was Saturday 20 October 2018. On Sunday the 21st, the Vice President spoke on the national television and he mentioned my name that very day. And it was news throughout the country. This was not a local television channel. It was a national state television, ZBC TV. And he threatened me with unspecified action. He accused me of saying something that I did not say. He said, I'm always talking about the leaders that they are going to be sick. I prophesied of the sickness of the president. I never said the president is going to be sick. I never said the vice president is going to be sick. He was sick and he interpreted a prophecy and he said, I was talking about him. I never mentioned his name. And he accused me of insulting elders. Let us watch that video.
Vice President Chiwenga also took a swipe at false prophets who are concentrating on fake prophecies mainly to do with people's health and deaths at the expense of preaching peace and love.
Kwane vamwe vakuzvita maprofita aripo uyo anodzi anditarendi ruziva ngazvichipera nhasi zvatoperera pano. Hatina mutoo iwoyo wokuti munhu anofamba achituka vakuru under the name yekuti ndiri kunamata Mwari. Mwari haataure kuti ndanotuka vamwe vanhu. Nyaya dzechechi yekutsvaga mari ngazvichipera.
The public appearance of Dr. Chiwenga, who has not been well but has since recovered and looked fit, speaking for over half an hour, was welcomed by the leadership from Mashonaland East, who were led by Politburo member Dr. Sidin Sekramai. Dr. Chiwenga took part in the entire church service and later laid wreaths at the family shrine in memory of his family members. The service was attended by several cabinet ministers, Deputy Chief Secretary to the President Cabinet responsible for presidential communications, Comrade George Charamba, close family members.
So this is the Vice President. He mentioned my name. And I want you to realize that the other sign that our state institutions are now used as puppets and as instruments of injustice in our country is the fact that the national television was allowing the vice president to talk about me, and yet it never consulted me. It never gave me airtime to respond to what he was saying. Now, saying the vice president should not order soldiers to kill the people in our streets is not insulting him. I don't know which dictionary he is picking his definition of an insult from. If somebody says this is wrong, that's not an insult. If you kill someone, you are a murderer. And that's not again an insult. Mr. Chiwenga and Mr. Mnangagwa, they are the presidency. They are in the presidium. According to our constitution, the military cannot go into any operation without an express authority sought from the commander-in-chief of the defense forces, who is the president. So when they ordered the massacre of our people, they became the murderers because the military are executing orders. If the military shooted people without their consent, we could have seen the court-martialing of those officers. We could have seen the prosecution of those officers. As I speak to you to date, nothing has happened to bring the military to book. The side show that our president did by calling the Motlanthe Commission to inquire as to who killed the people on the 1st of February was just a side show. There was no intention in our president, number one, to find out who had killed the people, because he knew who had killed the people. He thought he was going to manipulate the inquiry, the commission of inquiry, to come up with a conclusion that would hide the truth. But the findings of the commission are in the public domain. They actually concluded the military are the ones which shot down 6 people in the streets of Harare on the 1st of August 2018. It was in October of the same year that I was detained and interrogated by the soldiers. A day after that interrogation and that unlawful detention, the vice president was seen on public television threatening me. Now, the word insult is subjective, because if I say you are stupid today, you can actually say I have insulted you. But that's a subjective deduction. If you have done something that deserves that description, it's not an insult. For example, if a woman is of loose morals and is paid money for sexual service, if you call that woman a prostitute, she may say, I have been insulted. But on analyzing the behavior of the girl or the woman, if what she has done deserves that description, then calling her a prostitute is not insulting her. It's merely describing what she does. And again, to those who want to look academic and intellectual, even if it is true that I had insulted them, there are 2 questions to that narrative. How many have they insulted themselves? Some of them insulted even members of parliament. In the parliament, some MPs were undressed by these leaders. Have they gone on television to tell them that it should stop immediately? They can't go to television because, like I said, these are now no longer state institutions. They are now instruments of terror and instruments of injustice that are being willy-nilly abused by those that are in positions of power, especially from the ruling party. The second thing is, where do we find room in the law, in the constitution, that if somebody is insulted, if we come to a conclusion assuming that they are truly insulted, if you were truly insulted, from where do you obtain authority to kill those who insult you? Mr. Mugabe insulted Desmond Tutu on CNN and he called him the little man. He'd insulted Tony Blair. He insulted him and he called him a little puppy who is doing the bidding for the US government. Was he assassinated? Did the British government seek to assassinate Mr. Mugabe because he insulted their prime minister? So if you are insulted, are you authorized to take the insulter's life, assuming that you were properly insulted? What kind of justice is that? So we are saying we have got a genuine cause, we have grounds, we have reasonable basis, number one, to talk here and to do this campaign and say the government of Zimbabwe is seeking to kill Apostle Chiwenga. It's not an imagination, it's not an illusion, it's not a delusion. We are not talking from dreaming here. This is something that we've actually gone through. So at first I shared with you a video in which the Home Affairs Minister was threatening me. He labeled me an anti-government, morbid street preacher, rabid street preacher. I showed you a video where the Vice President talked about me on national television. And the third evidence we are going to show you is the newspaper article in which the Deputy Minister of Information and Publicity in the President's office, who was now sacked a few months ago, Mr. Energy Mtodi, he spoke about me and he wrote about me on Twitter again, and he said I should not be criticizing the government. You know, vanhu vakanzwa kuti government vanobva vatanga kudedera kuti government haitaurwe kana zvai. It's a myth. The government is not to be feared by its people. If anything, the government should be fearing the people, because the power of governance is obtained from the people. Let's look at the newspaper article in which we see Mr. Mtodi writing about me and saying I should not be speaking out and condemning unruly behavior by the state. So this is a newspaper article from the Zimbabwe Mail. Apostle Chiwenga's behavior constitutes disrespect, may arouse public anger and disorder, said Information Minister from 25 October 2018. In an interview with the local daily, Deputy Information Minister Energy Mtodi responded to cleric Talent Chiwenga. In a video, Talent responded to a warning from his cousin, Vice President Chiwenga, saying he has the right to freedom of expression. So that was the article. You can read it. We don't have time to read the whole article. You can pause this video and complete reading the rest of it. Because of these threats, the Minister of Home Affairs, the Vice President, the Deputy Minister of Information and Publicity, look at it. Who in this country has received these threats from such high-ranking public servants? Warning me and threatening me and insulting me and calling me a false prophet, calling me somebody who is looking for money. Somebody who is looking for money. By saying I'm looking for money, he was insulting me. If we were in a court of law right now with Vice President Chiwenga, I would simply defend myself and say, are you saying insulting elders is not allowed, but insulting young ones is allowed? Which law is that? He said I'm a false prophet. He said I'm doing the work of God because I want money. I can talk to you right now without any speck of doubt. The Vice President knows me very well. And I told you last time, he cannot say he doesn't know me. Because our recent encounter is on the 20th of October We met in Wedza, and he was recorded in that video when he was in Wedza. That's where we all come from. We come from the same family. He's a cousin of mine. He cannot accuse me of doing the work of the gospel because I want money. He knows very well. I went to school and I had a job. I resigned. He knows all that. Okay? If I wanted money, I would have remained in my employment. I was not fired. I resigned for the sake of the work of the gospel. That was just an insult. And he insulted me on a national television. During that insult, he was rebuking me for insulting him. The question is, in what way then is he different from me? I never insulted him. I never said he's a vice president because he's looking for money. He said I'm a preacher because I'm looking for money. That's an insult. That is false. Because I never asked him for money. So these are the things we have faced. These are the threats that they publicly held at me. These are not secret videos. We are not doing WikiLeaks here. These are videos and articles that are in the public domain. The government of Zimbabwe has publicly threatened my life. And what we have is, I have experiences in which I was hunted by the state. They attempted to kill me. In the process, I lost my wife, I lost my sister in the Lord, I lost my brother in the Lord. And I'm trying to use a worldly language so that people may understand what I'm talking about. In the first accident, which happened on the 12th of June in 2019, I was driving from South Africa to Harare, and before 4 hours, the police had released an article saying Chiwenga has been involved in an accident, his wife has died. They didn't just release my name, they released the address, our home address. It was released. That was unprocedural. That was very, very wrong, and that was also very inconsiderate. When an accident happens and people die in that accident, it is not right for the police to publicize names of the deceased before the next of kins are contacted. They had not spoken to our family, but they publicized that information. A truck came on my lane and I tried to avoid head-on. The car overturned, I lost control, and people lost their lives. And those are the images of the first accident that I got involved in. That was my car there. And I was seriously injured. And I lost my wife and the two brethren I've spoken to you about. And that is the image of the three people that I had with me in that vehicle, who all lost their lives in that fateful accident. We no longer have these three people. So we are not talking about looking for attention. We don't need attention from anyone. We are a church that has been in operation for the past 7 years. We have a lot of believers that are in every country. We are not seeking anyone to give us money like they are trying to purport. We are not asking for money either from the government of Zimbabwe or from the members of the diplomatic community or the international community. We are not looking for money. We are demanding our safety. We are demanding that the state, the government, should not make themselves gods, judge and jury. They have no right to decide who lives and who dies. That is wrong. After this accident, it was publicized in every social media. The state commented. The police wrote an article and they said they suspect that I was either sleeping or I was overspeeding or I was not driving responsibly. Less than 4 hours after the accident happened, where could they have obtained such evidence? Where could they have completed such an investigation? And on the 10th of July in 2020 last year, I made a public statement, and we are going to give you a link in this video of that public statement after receiving a tip-off from well-wishers that the state has launched another operation manned and executed by a very notorious team that was formed by Mr. Mnangagwa, which is basically a Gestapo that we have in Zimbabwe, a black shirt gang which was launched and which was constituted by Mr. Mnangagwa. Its sole responsibility is to silence the voice of the independent thinkers in Zimbabwe, abduct them, kill them, torture them, so that there may not be anyone who is strong enough, bold enough to speak and say, this is right or this is wrong. I made a statement. I had been in hiding for 10 days. The government was searching for me. They stationed 2 cars at the entry of my house. And we had that information and I left my house. And on the 10th, we decided to inform the people of Zimbabwe that that's what the government is up to. And 4 days after the public statement, on the 14th of July, just a year and a month after the first accident, a car drove against all the traffic regulations in a one-way traffic road. It came towards me. They wanted me to avoid a head-on again so that I could die. That is the accident that happened last year on the 14th of July. That black SUV was my car. This white car was driven by a man who is called Sam Madzingira. He was driving on a one-way road. The road I was driving in goes to Bulawayo. It was after about 5 kilometers from the Norton turn-off in the Bulawayo road towards Bulawayo. There should not have been a chance that I was going to meet an oncoming vehicle because the road is a one-way road. About 4 kilometers from the toll gate, where the road splits into 2, he didn't go to the other side of the road. He came to my lane. I flashed him. I hooted. I warned to warn him, you are in the wrong side of the road. Come out of the road. He never slowed down. He never went out of the road to give me right of passage because I was on the right road. And all the 3 people that were in his car, including himself, the driver, they died. The accident happened on the 14th of July, 2020. The government is silent up to this day about this second accident. But in the first accident, barely 4 hours after the accident, they had released a statement as to who were in that car and what are their residential addresses. Can you imagine, Pastor Baloy, that the police in Mashingo released my residential address 4 hours, barely 4 hours after the accident? Where did they obtain my personal details? And why haven't they released the same details about Mr. Madzingira? Instead of publicizing the information of the 3 who lost their lives in the latest accident, they are not only quiet, they wiped off everything on the social media about Mr. Madzingira, including his images. Such a prominent businessman who was based in Bulawayo, why can't we find his account on Facebook or on YouTube or on Google? It was a plot to kill me. And they want to convince us to be quiet about it and say it was a natural accident. Mr. Madzingira was negligent. He didn't see the sign which said, this is where the road splits. This one is a one-way that goes to Bulawayo. This one is now a one-way that is going to Harare. We will not believe such nonsense. We are never going to allow anyone to put some thoughts into our minds and force us to believe that it was an act of recklessness on the part of Mr. Madzingira. No. If the government was innocent, they should have contacted us. Why do you think this accident was caused by us? We are doing an investigation. These are the details of the other driver. Why are they quiet up to this day? These are the events that have necessitated us to do this advocacy. We are advocating for the safety of Apostle T.F. Chwenga. We are speaking as the voice of the church. Too much has happened to us. If these accidents had taken my life, you could not be hearing everything we are telling you now. We were involved in 2 accidents. I have gone through more than 5 surgical operations in both accidents up to this day. I have metals in my body because of those accidents. My children have no mother. As I speak to you right now, their mother's life was taken brutally, recklessly, and inhumanly by this regime, by this government, by this leadership. So we are not going to be asked to be quiet. As I talk to you right now, I have nothing that I think it can happen to me that can cause more pain to me than the pain I have already felt or suffered. Hapasisina chamunogona kuti nyararai kana mukasanyarara chakati chinoitika. Zvese zvakatiitika kwatiri. If I die today, I don't see myself and my death different from the death of my wife and my brethren who lost their lives in the first accident. So those cowards who want to say to us, be quiet or you die, you should also be quiet, because you have no brains in your empty head. So this is the advocacy. We are calling on every Zimbabwean. Let us speak with one voice. The government of Zimbabwe has done too much damage to us. Our lives matter. My life matters. Yes. We are going to join progressive-minded people in speaking with one voice as Zimbabweans. We have a right to do that. We are going to speak with every progressive and peace-loving Zimbabwean, Mr. Opo Chungono. We are going to speak also to Mr. Tewama Vinga, who also is risking his life capturing these horrific acts of terror by our own government. Apostle T.F. Chwenga's life matters. Zimbabweans' lives matters. That is the message. Mr. Mnangagwa has a duty to us, to me, to my safety, to my security, to the protection of my personal civil rights. I am a Zimbabwean, and as a president of Zimbabwe, he is duty bound to protect my life, not to hunt my life. Mr. Chwenga has no right to go on television and insult me. After that, he sends terror squads to take my life. What kind of a leader are you who wants to silence everyone who criticizes you so that you may remain feared and appear like you are little gods in our country of Zimbabwe? As people of Zimbabwe, we are not going to be quiet. Neither are we going to be afraid. We are not afraid. As we talk right now, you can actually see us, that what we do, you don't find too many people doing it. Our people are cowards. But we are asking Zimbabweans to come out of that fear. Our Zimbabwean situation is not safe whether you talk or you remain silent. Those people were gunned down in Harare. Most of them were not protesters. They were just coming from work, because that violence just started all of a sudden. And everyone was now told, go home, go home, go home. I was in town that day when people were shot. It was fortunate that I was able to drive out of town. But I met those soldiers entering into town. Somebody called me and said, the soldiers have been sent to kill people in town. If you are in town, leave. And I left. And those people who were walking and were gunned down, most of them were walking because they didn't have their own cars. They were going to the bus terminus so that they can find transport to go home. And they were shot dead. They were not speaking loud like Apostle Chwenga does, but still they died. So in Zimbabwe, do not think that if you are quiet, you are going to leave. We are in the same boat. Whether you talk or you are a coward, you don't talk, you are still going to die. Right now, the economy is down. The quiet ones are still suffering together with the loud ones. Those who are speaking out, they are suffering. We are buying food from the same grocery store. We are not finding treatment from the same dilapidated hospitals. So there is no difference. Don't pamper yourself with this ignorance. Hapana zvakasiyana. Chingatotibatsira panapa kuti ngatitaurei. Let us face our ghost together and demand the attention of the government so that they may commit themselves to the safety of Zimbabweans. When things are not right, we have to talk. And we have to ask our president to sit down with us. And we have a right to ask him questions. And he is duty bound to answer those questions. And to come to our table and say, that is what a proper government should do. So we are asking you to join us. The email address is there, advocacy@gmail.com. That is the email address. If you want to send a video to that email address. We want you to send your own advocacy material. It's a voice note. If it's a video, let it not exceed 10 minutes. Send it to that Gmail account. And on the 1st of May, from 10 o'clock a.m., we shall do the formal advocacy program. And that is going to bring this advocacy month to an end. If you have a WhatsApp message, send it to the WhatsApp number appearing on the screen. If you have sent something or uploaded something on your Instagram, on your Facebook account, on your Twitter account, or on your TikTok, whatever platform you are using, you can send us a link through those different platforms, the WhatsApp number or the email address, and we are going to also link you with others. We also have a petition that we have also posted on our platforms. We are asking you to sign on that petition. We want it to have as many signatures as possible, because we want to make this advocacy effective, and is going to help us in a long time. And we are encouraging Zimbabweans all over the world that the time to be quiet is over. Every Zimbabwean who is doing something, as long as it fosters peace and order, the rule of law, the respect of human rights in our country, let us rally behind such people. Let us speak with one voice. It doesn't help you to come to our platform and fight me for what we are doing, or to fight Opo Shimono. I saw last time he was posting, Pastor, and he said, what we are doing is, with one hand, we are fighting for the people of Zimbabwe, especially the youth, to have a better future, and asking our leaders to be accountable and to provide us with proper leadership. But on the other hand, he is also fighting with the very people whose rights he is advocating for. He is trying to defend himself to the youth. You should not criticize Opo Shingono. What I am doing is for your benefit. With another hand, he is fostering accountability and is fighting corruption in government. Munoshika kupi. Munoita unge imbwa dzinotoda kupuwa mukaka, enda kuruma uya nemukaka wacho. Nyaya yatinayo iyi haisi kuda kuti ufunge kuti munhu ari kutaura mushona here kana kuti mundevere. Munhu ari kutaura anopinda chechi kana kuti ndewe ZANU here kana ndewe MDC. We have passed that mark. May we not continue to be divided by anything. May we for the first time stand together as citizens of Zimbabwe. May we put our different dialects on the side and focus on our humanity as Zimbabweans. Our language differences, our tribal differences, political affiliations, may they not take precedence. May we focus on developing Zimbabwe as Zimbabweans. There are no hospitals that are fully equipped today which treat ZANU-PF supporters, and ill-equipped hospitals which treat MDC supporters. Dividing ourselves along those political lines is further entrenching our own oppression. If we allow politicians to continue to divide us, we are actually entrenching our own oppression to greater depths. Yes. We shall continue to languish in this situation. We don't need a politician for us to speak out. We don't need a political party for us to speak out. We have to start speaking as Zimbabweans. Those who are telling us, start a political party if you want to comment about politics, they are stupid. They are political illiterates. They want to comment on politics as if they know politics. Yes. Politics was never meant for politicians. Politics is for the citizens. Because the effects of politics and the effects of the manner of politicians has a direct transferable impact on the citizen that is walking on the street. Yes. Somebody said politics is too important to be left for politicians. Chenyu zvokuti hanzi nyararai kana kuti madii kuchinja chechi yenyu ndeyezvepolitics. Muri political illiterates. The problem with the empty heads is that they speak the loudest. I don't need to form a party to say to Mr. President Mnangagwa, don't kill us. You don't have a right to kill us. It's a crime to kill us. In other countries, he should have been indicted right now as you speak. Yes. He could not have remained in office. They could have indicted him for ordering soldiers to kill the masses. He could not continue to have continued to be our president today. Yes. And one does not need to be a politician to speak out. Those who say such things are political illiterates. Do not listen to them. They have nothing good to speak to you about. Yes. When Nathan rebuked David why he had killed Uriah, Nathan was not a politician. Rebuking the president did not make Nathan a politician. When Elijah rebuked Ahab for killing Naboth the Jezreelite, Elijah did not turn into a politician by rebuking the president. When Jeremiah rebuked Zedekiah for reneging on the law of God, Jeremiah was not labeled a politician for speaking up. He remained the man of God. Do not think that if you are short-sighted, everyone should be as ignorant, as dumb and daft-minded as you are. Some of us, we are much more enlightened than that. So we are asking everyone not to listen to the cowards and to the illiterates, the dandaheads, who are hiding their cowardice behind being wise and soft. I am wise, you need to be strategic. Sometimes the best strategy is to just to confront the problem head on. Yes. Hapana strategy yaunombori nayo kana wakanyarara uri gwara ndochete tsananguro dziripo. Saka tinoda kuti vanhu vabude muugwara ihwo tigotaura with one voice. Zimbabwe belongs to Zimbabweans. It doesn't belong to Mr. Chiwenga or to Mr. Mnangagwa. It's not their private property. There are no better Zimbabweans. Zimbabweans are equal in the eyes of the law. And we are not asking Mr. Mnangagwa to increase our life expectancies. We are asking him to desist from tampering with our lives. Yes. Chete. Turikuda kuti itaidzamara adzoke. Turikuda kuti kurege kuve nemumwe itaidzamara futi. That's what we are talking about. So this is our advocacy. We hope to meet with you on the 1st of May where we are going to wind up the advocacy month. It's bye for now. you.